How's everybody doing? Day 243, 365 days towards racial change. My name is Tomlins Nyback. We're here to talk about black issues as I see them, my limited, narrow opinion about black life, drawing a little on my experience, but mostly, hopefully mostly, looking at historical and factual data to bring an argument that black people can do better, can be doing better, and that there's a system, primarily white, that bears down, keeps blacks at a disadvantage within the system. Some of that is overtly intentional, I think. Some of it is inherent from the system. Humans breathe air, so our system, our respiratory system, needs relatively dry air to bring in the oxygen to our body. Now, if I tied a 50-pound weight to my leg and jumped in the deepest lake of the Five Fingers up there in Michigan and whatnot, I'm going to be a drowned ass because the system doesn't support dense material in my lungs. I don't draw enough oxygen from it in that way. Like a fish, different systems. There's a different way in which those systems work. So America is a white system and it's running really well on automatic. You don't have to do too much to keep its security and its position in the world and toward black people and things like that. So a lot of the devices employed to keep black people at a disadvantage are relatively perfected, used consistency with precision and skill, to the point where it's so normal we barely even know what's going on. I only feel it because of who I am, my inquisitive mind, my physical makeup. I run into it a lot, but there's plenty of blacks that probably feel like this is a lame project and I'm way off base saying that black people are at a disadvantage in America. I've gotten some of that feedback already. It's okay. We're just having our little freedom of speech, exercising, sober, calm conversation about the issue. On that note, though, I'm concerned about the black mind, whether it understands how grievous the wound is racially to it. I got a friend, and she has a friend who's anorexic, right? And that anorexia will kill you. And I don't know, I love the I'm not making fun at the anorexic. That's a very serious illness to think, to have an issue with food, but to the point where it kills you. I can understand drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex, sort of stuff we can form, but the food thing, but the anorexic has a blind spot there, and it's a it's a disease and all this stuff, so I'm not an expert on it. Uh, but one aspect that my friend shares with me in her relationship to this friend who she loves and cares about is that, that this anorexic has a blind spot about her weight, her food consumption, and things like that. Like, it's not obvious to her. And the black person who is not on board, who's not uh, tuned in, plugged in uh, to these very real concerns and challenges for black people in America, it's, it's like, it's beyond denial. There's something, in my opinion, there's something heavy going on there. Either they've gotten a hold of this thing, this American experience, in a way where they're so successful that they're just navigating the system, and their comfort and success lies in how well they're doing. Therefore, it's evidence to them that there's no issue with black folks. I mean, even though the system compels them to perform, to be that way. See, that's what I disagree with. I don't want to conform to the system in such a way so much. Oh boy, uh, experience so much success and ease in America, but it's being dictated by the choices given to me. And I'm navigating those choices properly. I want to self-determine my life. I don't care how well things get. It better be my ideas and my efforts doing it. The black mind. What's the white mind, conversely? How do they think? What's their, how do they feel? Well, what's their mental idea? I got a guy at work. I feel kind of compelled to share something very important and imperative with him about a personal aspect of his life. And the way things are going for me at work now, it kind of doesn't matter. It might get worse before it gets better. I haven't told you the story, but I'll keep you updated and apprised of what's going on. Some stuff is going on. Stuff. Uh, but it's this white dude, his wife, him and his wife are separated, not for relationship reasons. It's his wife took a position some distance away, and I believe it's causing him some stress. I'm a person that I don't carry other people's stress anymore. I know what it means to carry somebody else's stress, somebody else's junk, right? And it came out on me, and I gave it right back, and it made for a really very tense end of the work shift. Just needless to say. But the arrogance, the privilege, you know, I'm having a shitty time away from my wife I'm a white person in this privileged position, making great money, have my own space. They're making enough money to have 2 spaces, vehicles. I know. And he's, jammed up, right, uh, from this, I believe. We'll call him on it. Say, get out of my face and go be with your wife, because you're driving everybody crazy. And I don't care. I don't care about the consequences. I'm tired of the consequences dictating how I got to hold my hat in hand and beg people all the time. Right? See, my mind's been liberated, and I've not understood that um, that this white pressure has been on me and manipulating me about in whole lot of areas, right? That's what my concern about the white mind is it, am I associating with people who are for my liberty, my freedom, um, ability to express myself, and to maximize what I think is important, you know, or is it some type of glass ceiling, a barrier, and all kinds of devices that keep me away from having the same success and privilege, ease of movement that they experience? I wonder about the white mind. That's the thing. Financial literacy. Understand money. Google money. What's the money mean? What's the definition? What's currency? Money. And stuff like that. Start dissecting. Start doing your own research so you feel you're a master of money. Have an agenda with your money. How hard you want it to work, where you want it to go, what it needs to do for you. Believe you're going to live forever. Handle your money in that way. I've said it many times. I don't think it'll ever get old. I would have made some drastically different decisions had longevity been a part of my thinking. You know, brainwashed to be in the moment and all that stuff. There's a place for that, to be sure. But this licensed hedonism, pleasing the flesh in the moment and stuff, and valuing that above all, uh, has cost me dearly and has left me behind. Now I'm catching up to it because I've kept my head on straight for now some time and some distance. Now I think I can see the pack. The last guy in the pack, I'm starting to see him, and I'm moving in, so I can run with the horses. But I've got a long way to go. Would be a whole different story if longevity had been part of my economic financial equation um, about money. It's like, wow, you know, but I burned it up with drugs and alcohol and stuff. I mean, literally, it would have been easier just to take the green pill and set it on fire. That's about how long uh, the high lasts. Oh, it's all illusions and stuff. Or just knocking myself out, maybe totally um, uh, non-functional, messing with alcohol. But that's tied directly to financial literacy. Trust me on that. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. I've read 3 of his works, and he's just amazing inspiration. One of these books are going to be well worn and tattered. One day I'm going to have really my own space, start my own library. His work's going to be out there, definitely. A Black History Reader, 101 questions you never thought to ask. We are in this text today. Look up question 63. Going to be talking about actually a little bit of our favorite subject on here. It's not story time, but we're going to be talking about Uncle Tom's Cabin. Black labor, white wealth, search for power and economic justice, and Dr. Amos's national plan to empower Black America. Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com. Check out the hashtag #US2 symbol behind me. You'll find Black women there supporting one another, getting their community going and together. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, for kind of Black Facebook experience. If you can't find your flavor here on the World Wide Web, do what I did and start your own community. And finally, um, the subject of today is Uncle Tom's Cabin, but we're not having story time. We're just having a little review. Um, Maybe think a little bit, entice you to get the book yourself, read it, and just read. It's a great book. But Uncle Tom's Cabin, we have story time, we get great talking points, excuse me, from that. It's a book we're going to talk today about how it has influenced America and brought to bear some of the oldest, some old stereotypes and stuff. You know, this woman put this stuff in print. I believe she was a kind of philosopher in the land. And we're going to talk about some of the things we gleaned from that. This is just a flyby. We're in a Sonic jet. I'll do a quick flyby over Uncle Tom's Cabin. The question is, Dr. Anderson asked, what lessons should blacks take from the book Uncle Tom's Cabin? And if you listen to him on YouTube in his videos, he references the book pretty consistently about what's an Uncle Tom versus Sambo and stuff, and so some of the ways we've not correctly used that term to identify or try to degrade a black person. We don't use it right, so maybe we'll get to that a little bit. But he references it a lot. We've been in it a little while, and Tom is about to go through probably some more changes. His master was just stabbed. The master's daughter died from some unknown disease. There's a lot of sadness going around, but we'll pick up with that properly in a couple days. The book is written, collated, compiled right before the Civil War, but it was actually began as articles in an abolitionist newspaper. I forget the name off the top of my head. And but then it's about 40 chapters, so there's 40 cell entries in this magazine. But then they said, well, let's bring it all together. And here's you've got the collection of Uncle Tom's Cabin. I was always under the impression I didn't think it was significant, didn't care about it, thought it was just a little pamphlet talk about just one more black person with a challenged life in America. Turned out to be a good book, over 500 pages or so. And very good story there. It's got plots within plots. A lot of stuff framed very well. With a realistic look at slave life in America, although it's a fictional account. Read it to the end, though. There's some stuff you got to understand about the book. Pre-war tensions rising, coming together about slavery and freedom. Remember, slavery, the Civil War wasn't about the North being morally right and the South being morally wrong, about having free or enslaved black people in America. But the war was about the slaves as the stuff of political and economic power. There's big differences there. If you remember John Brown, Harper's Ferry and all that, 1859, that's about the moral, the humanity, or giving black people some humanity around and around being and existing and living in the land. That I believe that was his motivation, the humanity of black folks. Not the Civil War. If you understand James Madison's notes and things like that, and some of the debate and conversation in Philadelphia, 1787, around black folks, it was around trade, tariffs, voting power, 3/5 of a human being, and all that stuff. Not moral considerations. There's some blurbs in James Madison's notes about that, uh, but nothing extensive, nothing to say that this is the reason, the motivation for us coming together is to discuss the humanity of black folks. That was a minor concern, And then you have mid 1800s, um, you know, 40, 50 years later, you know, it's about slave and free, black skin and stuff like that, but only because of the political and economic implications. That's an important thing to think about. The Civil War, the history is presented to us young kids as, oh, they're freeing the slaves. The North is so right. The South is so wrong. That's not it at all. That's not it at all. So I'll move on from that. We've talked about that a little bit. She's written this around 1852. A lot of teachable ideas there in the book. There's cruelty, moral evil in there, the dehumanization of black folks. We have read up to the point a slave woman named Prue who had to listen to her baby starve to death because Prue's white mistress wanted Prue available for her. So Prue had to leave the baby alone at night. Yeah, this is strange. You gotta read to the end of the book. There's some stuff about that, but you think, up to the point that we've read, like, there's no community to help the baby. I don't know, like slaves and things like that, and so you got that kind of going on in America. You know, this cruel white woman tells her slave, just leave the baby out, starve to death. You know what? That's such an agonizing death for a baby, because the stomach is just all your attention is there, and this baby dies and turns Prue into an alcoholic. She is consequently beaten to death for her alcoholism and stealing money. So that's wow, what a episode in Uncle Tom's Cabin. We meet Tom, very religious, pious to a fault, in my opinion. I don't like manipulation, coercion, no matter how willing it is. I kind of have a relationship with God. I have issues with the death of Christ, uh, as necessary as it was. Okay, so we meet Tom, self-sacrificing, religious, volunteering his efforts, his time. We haven't met him yet, but there's two guys coming up, Sambo and Quimbo. I don't want to spoil too much about two guys coming up that are important as far as, you know, how slaves were used and war against other slaves. It's going to be an interesting dynamic we're going to read about. And we've talked about self-hatred. Remember the doll test? and especially when we were going through Topsy's narrative and how this girl, she's living a life of self-hatred for being black. This has been seeds planted in her by the white system, reinforced by white slave masters, of course, but also even the slaves. When she comes as that new face in the slave community, she's already judged because she doesn't know her parents, the date of her birth, where she was born, how old she is. She's a lowly class of black person in there. And this comes from the self-hatred. This is a lesson we can take away from Uncle Tom's Cabin. Physical abuse, black people as simply a monetary value. I wonder, that's the value I grew up on. Two working parents, um, and that rubs off on the children. So what do we do with that? How do we live? How do we come to some better spaces, ways to enjoy life as a human being? But I go to school. They teach that blacks are slaves, and white people kind of got off easy. I'm seeing. So now I go home, and that's what my parents were doing, slaving. That's what I saw. You can say, oh no, they're teaching the work ethic. They're teaching me how to be on somebody else's plantation and not self-determine my life. That's another takeaway lesson we can get from Uncle Tom's Cabin. It's roughly based on the life of a real slave called Josiah Henson. There's a real cabin attributed to all this drama, Uncle Tom's Cabin. When this book came out, 300,000 copies were sold. Right, it was sold, number 2 right behind the Bible. And if you think about the Bible, what do we get as far as cinema? Greatest story ever told, The Robe, Barabbas, Ten Commandments, the Bible. So we get there's plenty of biblical stuff, and they're still making a lot of dramatizations of the lives of a lot of matriarchs, patriarchs. So the book is very influential. But I dig into Shirley Johnson, Bilbo Jangles Johnson, Shirley Temple, Bilbo Jangles Johnson. As far as the Tom and the little white girl dynamic. We get blackface, the Duncan sisters, and whatnot. You get, sometimes it's a little irritation, when I see and it's my own personal thing, but I gotta vent this. Well, when I see a chorus of white people kind of imitating a black chorus, saying like, "Ain't that the good news?" All those English, the pronunciations of the black slave. I have issue with that. I don't want to go into why, but I do. Oh, but this book, it was banned in the South. It brought dignity and light to the plight of slaves. It agitated, it stirred the pot there. It did pull some heartstrings and stuff, but remember, the moral piece was not the issue. And we'll meet a tough slave master, Simon Legree. We're going to run into him, have some words to say about him at this style of his ownership versus aristocrat, much like St. Clair's twin brother and father. And like I said, we'll untangle some of this Uncle Tom, ascribing Uncle Tom to difficult black people, and that's not what's really going on. We'll talk about the real person, the real difficult black person, out of Harriet Beecher Stowe's book. As day 243 out of the way, 365 days towards racial change. My name is Tom Williams Nybag. Please come back tomorrow. Let's see what we can stir up.